another amazing day at fmtraining.tv where we have the fabulous Calvin with us here today. My name is Margaret. I will be your broadcast engineer. If I don't step on my own headphones, that would be good. I'll be your broadcast engineer for today. Real quick, a reminder, we stream on 3 platforms. We stream on Discord, we stream on YouTube, and we stream on Twitch. I follow all of those conversations. Part of the reason we're here is to help build a community, answer questions, improve people's understanding of the platform in ways that they can wield the platform to their best advantage. And in order to do that, feel free to ask questions. We love answering them. I'll forward them all on to Calvin as we get them. Real quick, what is our schedule? We do have a schedule. Okay, so today is going to be portals. The basics of portals and portals kind of for beginners, but I'm sure we can also talk about some other stuff. If you guys have more advanced portal questions, you can also fling that at us if you'd like. Wednesday and Thursday are going to be Nick days. They're both the finals of different things. Though the super optimization series is more like a series that's kind of loosely connected. But Wednesday's going to be relationships. Nick is going to finish discussing his in-depth dive on relationships. Thursday's going to be auto entry versus calculations. Friday's going to be an open FileMaker server Q&A, which is always fun. Monday is going to be monkey bread and screenshots in FileMaker. RC wrote some stuff with MBS the other day, and now he wants to talk about it. And then Tuesday, Jonathan Ray has a translations file, which should be interesting to discuss. Especially since quite a wide chunk of our viewership is actually not English speaking. Or English rather is not their primary language. Let us pull up the bundle. If you'd like to support us, we would appreciate it greatly. Feel free to support us through the bundle, Learning FileMaker Annual Subscription Bundle. We have 2 options, video only, and one that comes with FileMaker itself. It's both 100+ hours of high energy video training. I did the time myself. It is indeed, I think it's 100, depending what courses you're going to add to it, 110 to 140, depending. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of time. A lot of stuff is discussed. I think Calvin, you show up a couple times in there. RC is, of course, one of the main presenters. Nick is a main presenter. Jacob Taylor is a big presenter. A couple of other senior engineers, Pirup, Scatterling. Pretty much covers everything that you want to talk about. WebDirect Go, deploying to FileMaker server or cloud, the basics of Pro completely, pretty much. We talk about all of it. Feel free to do it. We appreciate it. It helps keep the stream running. It helps keep us doing this free content for you guys. So, anyone who already has it, thank you very much for buying it. We greatly appreciate it. We hope it's been useful to you. With that being said, I don't think I have anything else to discuss immediately. I'm not RC. I don't come bearing random stories. So, what are we doing today, Calvin?
Today we're going to look at portals, and this is a real basic intro to portals. We're going to start with a blank file and add a portal in there, look at all the options, and then at the end we'll take a look at FM starting point and how the portals are being used there. So this is really introductory, bottom of the shelf, easy or intro to FileMaker and portals. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Mm-hmm.
And so here I have my start window with FileMaker, and I select Create, and I'm just going to say, let's start with a blank file. And I will save it here on the desktop. And I'm going to call this one Contact. And so this, I'm just given the first table in the app, and let me create another table. I'll call this one Events, and we'll give it a date, a time, a number, a note, and just some basic information here. And we'll go ahead and also give this one an ID, contact, and just
So real quick, Calvin.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna drag us all into the dirt for a bit.
Yeah.
What is a portal, and why would you want to use them?
Right. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm creating the structure that we'll be using to reference the portal. So let's go ahead, and we're looking at this layout, and by default, this is the first layout that we created, and it says Contact. and we have a contact field. So I'm going to go ahead and say Johnny Appleseed. And so a portal is a way in FileMaker that we can see related data. We can see data from another table or even the same table through a relationship, and which can the relationship can filter the data. It can show us all the data. It can show us, and there's different options that we can select in the relationship settings to control what we see in the portal. Let's go ahead and add a portal to this layout. So I'm going to grab this portal. This is our portal tool right here. If you hover over this, this is portal tool. Display records from related tables on a layout. Great. And I'll go ahead and create this. Now it doesn't know what we want to show information from. It says show records from. And I can select current table. I've got related tables and I have unrelated tables. Now, if I want to see all of the events that we created in an events table for this particular contact, it's not an option because it's not related. We have this manage database option at the bottom, so I can go right back into manage database and make some adjustments. Let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go back to relationships. To view that data, it has to be related. So let me go ahead and make this a little taller. We're going to relate the primary key to ID contact. And that's just a primary key to a foreign key to establish that relationship. And just to make things a little easier, I'm going to say allow creation of records in this table via this relationship. I'll enable that. So, okay.
So that'll allow you to make new portal records when you hit like Command New in the portal line, or portal rows rather?
Yeah, so Command N won't work, but if you enter the field, then just typing will create the new record.
Okay.
So now we have a related tables option. We have events as a related table. So I'll go ahead and select events. And for now, I'm just going to say, I'm not going to look at these other options. I'm just going to say OK. Now, when you create that first portal with the portal tool, when you create any portal with the portal tool, you'll get this option to add fields to the portal. So what do we want to see? Let's do date and note and number. I'm just going to do those three. Mm-hmm. And we'll say OK. And it will automatically add these to our portal for us. So that's really awesome. Let's go. We'll switch to the selection tool, and we can move this around and make adjustments to it. Let's go ahead and for now, what I'd like to do is just use the placeholder text. So we don't, it didn't put labels on here for me. So I'm just going to use the placeholder to enter information, or to view which field is right. And for the date, because this is a date, I'm going to make this put this as a drop-down calendar. So we went a little fast through setting up that initial portal, and we haven't looked at any of the options. Do we have any questions up to this point?
I don't see any. And
do you have any questions, Margaret?
I don't. So as a quick thing, everyone,
okay.
I have very scattered FileMaker knowledge. I know jack all about portals. I've never used them.
Okay, so so essentially we would see in this use case, we have events that are associated to a contact. It might be maybe the contacts are presenters on a live stream, and these are the topics that they present on.
Yes.
Or maybe it's meetings that you have with a client. Whatever it is, let's go ahead and create some records. I'm going to put in this first one for March 28th, 2022, and put in a note, and maybe this was a sales number or something like that, and we'll put in a number value there. Let's go ahead and put in a note for today, say new note, and you'll notice because we have create records via relationship, we can just type right in to create these new records. If we go back to manage database and disable this, we don't have that option to create a new record. There's no extra line at the bottom. We would have to we'd have to add a button and a script to manage that, creating the new record. But just to keep it easy for now, I'm going to re-enable that. And let's create another record. We'll make this one for next week. If these are live streams, we could put it on the 22nd and say containers.
Yes.
And maybe we're planning on 1,000 people showing up or something. Okay, so we've got 3 events here and 3 records. And let's give this one 200. Okay, and these are displayed in the order that they're created. So that's an important thing to note. So even if I put a date in here, so this 4th one is the date 3/29, and another, we'll give this one 1,500. So we're not seeing them sort by any one of these fields. It's sorted by the creation order. And that's just by default in FileMaker, any table will display the records by default in the order that they're created. Let's go into layout mode, Command L, and select the portal and see the different options for sorting, or options for the portal. And the first option we have is for sorting. Let's go ahead and select that. And we have a list of all of the portals that are all of the fields that we can sort. I'm going to go ahead and say sort by number. Well, let's see what happens here. Say OK. Go to browse mode. And this looks a little strange to me. If you notice, here I said sort by portal. We're sorting by the number, and we're sorting in ascending order. We're not really talking about sorts, but there's a number of different options you can select for the sort. But I said ascending, and we're not seeing it in ascending order.
No.
And the reason here is that this field, when we set it up, we're just creating fields willy-nilly and fast, is a text field. So you'll notice that it's sorted alphanumeric. So 1, and then 2, and then 5. So it's seeing the order of the field as being 1 comes before 2, comes before 5. Let's go ahead and change this to a number. We go to type, number, change. So now that it's a number, let's go ahead and save. That fixed our sort, just like that. So now we have 200, 500, 1,000, 1,500. And so, and that would be true also with the dates. Let's go ahead and change the date, or change it to sort by date. So now we're sorting by the date, which probably would make a little more sense. And in this case, it works out. But if we said maybe change this one to 2021, it stays in that order because, again, it's not seeing it as a date. Let's go ahead and change it to a date. We'll say date is now a date. Say OK. Save that, and now it put the 2021 event at the top of the list. Let's move that back to 2022. And so it was just a matter of a coincidence that it stayed in that order. So the next thing is filtering that we see here. Do we have, so about the portal and the sorting, do we have any questions about that before we move on to filtering?
I don't see any currently. I will ask the one that I kind of asked you earlier, so maybe I derail. You enlightened me differently, but I was under the impression that you had to have a relationship in order to have a portal.
Yes. So in the past, up to through FileMaker 17, you did have to have a relationship to create a portal. Starting in FileMaker 18, we have the new ability to have a master detail portal, which behaves a little bit differently, and I'll save that for the end of the conversation.
Got it. Okay.
That behaves quite differently than a regular portal, although it's set up using the same tool.
Okay. Good to know.
Let's take a look at filtering. So filter portal records, and we can specify this with a calculation. And so this has to be a Boolean calculation. It has to be true. So we could filter this by maybe we want to see only the stuff in the future. Maybe we don't care about old events. So we can say date is greater than or equal to get current date. So that might be helpful. Let's go ahead and say OK. We'll go to browse mode. And let's go ahead and create two portals so we can see them side by side. To create a new portal, I'm just going to hold down the Option key. And that creates a new object, which is really helpful if you want to create things real fast. And I'm just going to put something in here and so that our can see the edge here. Okay. So here, so you'll see this one's the one with the filtering. We have filtering on the left, and we have the regular portal on the right. Now, one interesting thing here is if we set a date in the past, you can see we can create this note, note for March. Give this one 300. As soon as I saved it, it did save the record. It allowed me to create it, but because it doesn't match the filtering, then it was moved over. Then we don't see it anymore. It was hidden as soon as we saved it. But the record was created. Sometimes, depending on how your filtering is, you can feel like you're creating records, but they disappear, and you wonder where did those records go. They're just hidden because of the filtering.
Good to know.
And the filtering also doesn't force those records to a certain, sometimes when you have, well, in this case, the allow record via relationship automatically assigns the ID contact so that that relationship is true. The filters don't apply those, don't have to be true when you create the records through the relationship. Okay. And this filter, you can say, we can use the equals, we can say we can also use is less than or equal to, go over there. So now we have all of the past records, and maybe you would want two portals, one that says a less than current date, and then you have a second portal that shows you all of the future items. And so now we can see, okay, the past is over here, the future is over here, and the present and future is on the right. And so there's some nice options that we have for the filters with the filtering and things you can do there. Any questions about filtering before we go on to the next option?
I don't see anything. I might have kind of a derail question. Is there anything could you script it so that you could hit a button and change the filters for the current portal, or would that have to be kind of like hide the portal and swap out to show a different one sort of shenanigans?
To change the filters?
Yeah.
Yes, you could do that. You can have so one thing that you can do is use a global field to define what that filter is. And we can go ahead and show something like that. So maybe you want to see, let's go ahead and add a global field here. And I'll put the global in here. And we will say, we'll move it over here, global filter. And just for the sake of, since we've been filtering by dates, let's just keep, well, let's actually look at filtering by a number. So maybe you want to see anything that is greater than a certain number. So here we go. We'll say number is greater than or equal to, and then we'll use this filter field.
Ed mentions that it's still a text field.
Good point. For it to be global is not necessary, but for I say global because it would make the most sense to have it as global.
Got it.
But having it global is not actually required. So maybe we say it has to be greater than the global field. So now we're saying the number has to be greater than whatever we enter in the global field. So now if I put in 500, and actually we might have to, let me just look at what my filter says. Filter is, we'll say greater than or equal to the filter. We'll say browse, and we might have to refresh the portal. So we're going to have an on object modify trigger that just says refresh. And if you're trying to refresh a portal, you have to select the refresh portal specifically.
So refresh object won't work.
Refresh object won't work, and I've tried that. I've wondered why something won't work, and it's because I'm saying refresh object and not portal. So we're calling this events, and the object name has to be specified. So let's go ahead and give this the name that we gave it. And I'm going to say our trigger here is on object modify. So here we go. And there we go.
Ah, that works. Okay, got it.
So now we're seeing, and it's actually not, something's not quite right. And here's our problem here. So our global filter is text. So let's change that to a number. And so now we see everything greater than or equal to 1,000. And if we do a 500, and the I might need to put maybe we need a commit in here. Say that. Try that. Oops.
Okay.
So there. So we have this option to, so the filter doesn't have to be static. It can be dynamic. And you can have this based on any of those fields and be able to change it. And each user could have something specific, different that they're viewing. And the reason why you'd want it global is so that two users could be looking at the app. It's hosted in FileMaker server. Two users are using the app, and they're putting different filters on the portal at the same time. They can look at the same record, see different data, and work with it at the same time. As long as they're not editing the record, as long as they're just changing the global field, then that filter would work without without the two running into each other. So great question there. Any other questions about filtering?
Not filtering. I'm gonna
okay.
briefly side rails because I could see people asking this. More of a side question from Wally on YouTube. Your advice is always to follow the anchor way, but in samples we always make it's always in the spider way. So he's referring to relationships there. He's asking basically like, why don't we do the anchor for all of our sample files when we're live building?
Yeah, so because this isn't really, so if we wanted to do that, we can say, I didn't even name the table contacts. So if we wanted to do that, then I would call it something like that. And that would be our anchor and our buoy. So that's what it's going to look like in FM starting point if you look at that. And FM starting point is kind of more if you're wanting to look at how things are structured. That's probably a better way to structure things. So is that better for you? So now we're having an anchor buoy.
Yeah, no,
format followed.
Basically, Wally, since we're building it live, we kind of just fling things together in the process, and the way that we fling things is not always, when it's not about the specific subject, it's maybe not always the way that it should be built, just because we're doing it quickly.
True.
In person.
And Any other questions?
Yes, David Angel. Portal should always refer to a child table. I think TO is table, correct?
Yeah, TO is table occurrence.
Occurrence, yeah.
So a portal should always reference a child table occurrence. Usually, I wouldn't say always. I'm trying to think of an instance where I guess if you're not referencing the child table occurrence, then I would be wondering what you're doing. That sounds like it'd be like a spider web if it's not the child table occurrence. Unless you have a tape, and we don't recommend this, but sometimes you'll see layouts based on a child table occurrence, and then they have a portal going back to the parent table. So, and the portal could be a self-join. But if it's self-join, it's usually structured as a child table. But yeah, good question there. Anything else?
Nope, I don't see anything. So.
Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the next option that we have, and that will be the allow deletion of records, of portal records. Now, this is an interesting one because, one, I don't find it very, I don't use it, and I don't find it very user-friendly, but it's interesting to look at. So I'm going to go ahead and enable it on our filtered record here. And so this is all of our records on this side, and here are our filter records. And you'll see it's kind of hard to tell because the color isn't that much different. I'm going to change the color here to show that it's info, or not the portal. We want to look at the portal row, and we want to see the active portal. And I'm going to change the color to something kind of bright.
There we go. That
just
works.
So we can see it. So see that that's the active portal row?
Mm-hmm.
When that's the active portal row and I don't have a field selected, so this one, I have the portal selected, but the field's not, I can select the delete, and it says permanently delete this one related record, delete, it's gone. And once I committed, you saw it disappear on the other side. Let's do that again. So here it's highlighted. I select delete, and watch over here. You'll see that this 422 containers 1000, that's the same record. I'll say delete. And so it's deleted, but it hasn't been saved yet. I'll click outside the portal to commit, and it was deleted. And you see it disappeared on the right side where there's no filtering. So it's an interesting thing to just know that that is available to you. Since it's not a very user-friendly approach, then I don't use it very often. Do you have any questions about deleting a record in the portal row?
No. I don't see any. So.
Let's go to our next item. So allow vertical scrolling. Now, this is an interesting thing that trips me up every once in a while. Let's create a bunch of records here. We're going to remove the filter. And so now we're seeing all of our records, and I'm just going to start creating a bunch of records here. And just by putting in a date. And I want to create some more records. Create some more. And so now look at all these records, but I can't scroll. And even though there's a lot of records in there, and let's put a number on here. Insert, say, can I select portal row? Maybe I just say record number. Okay. So now we see that we know that there's more records than just 8. Go to our data viewer and count through that relationship to see how many related records there are. We want the anchor buoy one. We'll count those, and there's 11. But we can only see 8. And we can't scroll anymore. And that's because there's 2 ways to fix that. One is allow vertical scrolling. And we can select always or when scrolling. So I'm going to just select always for now. And so when you say always, you get this portal, this navigation on the right side of the portal. Now, this is based on your theme. You can't actually edit this without changing the theme. If you it's based on whatever theme you started with in your layout, or wherever the theme where the portal was created. But so now I have this portal with a way that I can navigate up and down in the portal and see the rest of those records, all 9 through 11, and then create more. So when that's not enabled and you're using the create record via relationship, now the person's stuck. They're limited to 8 records. Now they have to delete a record to create any new ones that they might have in there. So good to know that. Now you can select always, and we just saw what that looked like with the scroll bar on the right, or you can say when scrolling, which is usually what I use. And so we don't see that navigation bar, but when you start scrolling, then it appears. And when you stop, it disappears. Stop, it disappears. Scroll, it comes back. So this is more so the allow vertical scrolling is about function, and then when show scroll bar when is about kind of about how it displays, which is helpful. Usually when scrolling is better on a desktop, while always is helpful if you're using a mobile device so that you can see it a little better.
Yeah, that that makes sense. I am briefly going to derail us, as interesting as this is, because there's a really beginner question, and I feel like you could answer this better than I could.
Okay.
IT Gaming Access. Is it possible to convert the program to an executable program .exe? In addition, does the program work on Android? I asked what he was referring to by program. I asked if he was referring to the database file, and he said yes. So.
Yeah, it sounds like they're looking for like a runtime, and the runtime for FileMaker was discontinued. So the runtime options are not available, but FileMaker Pro will work on Windows.
Yes.
And you can use it on Android through the web viewer with WebDirect. And one thing I've actually been doing lately is testing as much as I can my work on WebDirect, just because that is the kind of worst case scenario for somebody using an app. And so if it works there, then it should work on Windows and Mac pretty well as well. But you can't make a runtime out of it. You have to have FileMaker Pro or use WebDirect through the browser, which isn't always recommended.
Yeah.
Any follow-up question to that?
Yeah, basically it was just, he kind of like added an extra because I hadn't quite responded yet.
Okay.
So when you finish designing the sales program, does the program work on Android? Just kind of answered.
Yeah, so one of the great things about FileMaker is that it is cross-platform. So this I could send to somebody, and if it's hosted in FileMaker server, and most of our servers at RCC are actually Windows-based. And so we could put it on FileMaker server, and then that would serve the app to all of our users, and they can access it on iOS with FileMaker Go, on iPhone or iPad. They can access it on FileMaker Pro on Mac OS with FileMaker Pro. They can access it with Windows using FileMaker Pro, the Windows version of that. And then you can use it on Chrome, on a Chromebook or a Android using WebDirect. But you would have to make sure that WebDirect has some limitations, so you would definitely want to test pretty thoroughly there to make sure that whatever you built works on those platforms. But the But yeah, it's cross-platform, so you can use it just about anywhere. With the using it in WebDirect, though, you don't have the ability to make edits and go into layout mode like we're doing here with the Pro product.
You'd just be using it like after the fact. So like you said sales, so I assume you're thinking about making a sales program. So like if you used WebDirect, you'd just be inputting the information to the sale, like this is the contact of the sale, this is how much they bought, add the invoice, send the invoice.
Yeah.
Changing how the invoice layout looks or works would have to be done on a desktop.
Yeah, so the end user could use WebDirect on Android or in a web browser. And the developer, though, would still need to have the Pro product on Windows or Mac. So, good questions.
Hopefully that answers your question. IT Gaming Access, we always like seeing new people come to the platform or have questions about it, so if you've got any follow-up, let us know, and we will try to answer them. Or if you felt like that didn't explain it enough for you, ask a follow-up, and we'll try to answer it differently.
Great.
With that being said, we can continue for now, Calvin.
Yeah, so we're going back to the scroll bar, and the final option for the scroll bar is reset scroll bar when exiting record. So so you'll notice here I can scroll down to so now the first line is number 4. Let's go ahead and enable this and scroll down to number 4. And as soon as I clicked out, did you notice that? So I click out of here. You can't really see my click, but when I am navigating in there, I'm in the record, even if I'm not editing. But when I click out, I'm exiting, I'm committing the record, and it's checking if there's any changes has been made. So at that point, it resets the portal and scrolls back to the top. So it's a good thing to be aware of how that works. So if you want it to reset and jump to the top when you click out, then have this enabled. Otherwise, you can have it disabled. Okay. Any other questions about the scroll bar? Okay. So the next part is some formatting. And one of these is pretty interesting. So we've got initial row, number 1, and number of rows. Yeah, so right now we have 8 rows. I can change this to 10. So now I've got 10 rows. Now let me create, maybe you want to see a few different columns of the same table. Okay, so here we go. I just did 2 portals, and I'm seeing 10 records in each. Now let's go ahead and create some more records in here. And you'll notice we're creating a bunch for next month. And there we go. So now we have next month's records. We have a total of 14 records here and a total of 14 over here. Now, if you want, you can say, and this is probably where you might, if you know how many records there's going to be, and you might disallow vertical scrolling. So I'm going to turn off vertical scrolling, go back to 8 records. It's a little shorter. And let's go ahead and create a new one. I held the Option key and created this new one. And now instead of the initial row being number 1, I'm going to say the initial row is 9. So let's go to browse mode. Now I'm saying the first 8 records in the first portal and the next 8 records in the second portal. And this allows you to put your data in columns and instead of having to scroll through a long list. And maybe you know that there's a certain number of records. What can be confusing here is if you have vertical scrolling enabled, is that when you're scrolling down here and you see record 14, we're seeing it also over here. So it might add to a little confusion. Usually when we have 2 portals, we're looking at a lot of records, but we know there's a limitation of how many records that we want to look at. Usually we have filters on it, so we know we're only seeing the top however many results. So this is a really also it can work out great for some kinds of reporting and printing and saving as PDF to get those formatted just right how you wanted to see those records and columns. Any questions about using the initial row and the number of rows?
Not currently. I thought you explained that really cleanly.
Great,
Uh,
great. So I remember the first time that's been in the product a long time, and the first time I saw it, I was pretty impressed by somebody's implementation of it. Now the last two are again formatting. Use alternate row state, and so you'll notice we have a light row, dark row, light, dark. I'm not sure if you can see that through the screen share. It's pretty pretty
it's pretty
light.
faint. But I
Yeah,
mean, I
let's
can
go ahead
kind of
and
see
I'm
like
going to
right
go over
here.
here to the portal row and select the alternate option, and I'm going to make that a bit
There
darker.
we go.
There. So now you can see the initial and secondary or alternate. So if you disable this, use alternate row state, go back into browse mode. Now we don't have that alternate row state going on. Maybe you want to, in this case, we've got the fields, so that kind of gives a good separation. If you don't have that, you might want to put a line in there. But alternate row state is also a good one to use. And then active row state. We showed this earlier when we were using the delete. And so you're seeing this blue line is whatever one is active. And if I disable use active row state, then you can't tell which one's the active row. And sometimes it doesn't really matter which one's the active row. But but in this case, you can control it through the portal options. So that really covers the portals and the portal options that we have here, and most of the portal options, I guess. One of the final thing I wanted to show though is using a portal for a master detail. So starting in FileMaker, FileMaker 18, we got the option to select the current table. So just like unrelated records is disabled, the current table used to be disabled in FileMaker 17 and older, and grayed out and not an option. But now we have the option to see the current found set of the current table by selecting current table. And you'll notice by default, it's going to one of the related records. I'm going to select contact. And we're just going to move the contact field in. And we'll leave that like that. So now, if I say new I'm just going to select new record up here. You could also select Command N. And normally this would never create a portal record. But here it created, you'll see there's this new portal record now. And we'll call this one Tim. And we'll save that. We see it there. I'm going to hit Command N to create a new record. And we're going to say John. So now we've got 3 records here. And you'll notice that they are, that it's the found set. We're on the last record of the found set. We can scroll through these and see the different records. If we go to the options, you'll notice that all of the sort, filter, deletion of records, and vertical scrolling is all disabled. And so we don't have control of those. But instead, we can control those options through, because it's displaying the found set of data, we control them through the find, through the sort, and whatever sort you have on the layout. So right now I just sorted by the contact name. So now it's sorted by the contact name. And whatever sort you have applied to the found set will be applied to this portal. So it's really a powerful tool, especially with using the prevalence of master detail in layouts and in apps as of recently. Before FileMaker 18, we would go through all these crazy relationships to get a master detail joining to the same table and try to get it to work. And this is much more elegant and useful. You still have the same row options. You can't select the initial row because it's just showing you the found set, but you can have the active row and alternate rows options as well. So that's the final piece of the portals, the portal options there. Do you have any questions
Yes,
about the
actually,
master detail? Yes.
about, well, not
Go ahead.
kind of just about portals in general. We
Mm-hmm.
got three, so I'll do Michael Kierwin first. Are there any well-designed portals out there, or are we committed to the particular theme design? Basically, are portals stuck to their theme?
Yeah. So great question. So portals, so you can change certain things about the portal. So you saw me changing the portal row and all of those different options in there. Now, if let's go ahead and show the, what do we want to show here? We want to show the vertical scrolling. And let's go back to browse mode. And let's go ahead, just for the sake of showing this, we're going to switch everything back to default. The default portal. And let's go ahead and show this vertical scrolling on both of these. Make that just a little bit, oh, that's wide enough. Okay. Okay, so now we're seeing how this portal navigation works. And let's go ahead and duplicate this layout. And we're going to call this one, I don't remember what I think it's called Apex. We're going to call this first one Contacts Apex. And the second one, let's go ahead and open. Should we get votes? What theme do we want to assign to this? Somebody shout out. I'm going to say luminous. We can do a few of these though. So now we're luminous. And so now we've got this
Totally different bar.
Yeah, totally different bar option here. Navigation bar up to go up and down. Are there any others we want to see?
Okay. No, I don't see. I don't see any at the moment.
So you'll notice in FM starting point that the bars are all look like this, because we start when to create a theme, you have to start with an existing theme. Nobody has themes that they just pull out of thin air.
Got it.
And so so you have to start with an existing theme, and your portal navigation is going to match whatever that theme is. So in FM starting point, we started with the minimalist theme, and so that's why the portal navigation looks like that. Good question. Any other questions?
Yes.
Okay.
We've all popped up. Let's do the last one on YouTube, and we'll do Discord questions. For the columns and setting specific rows for each portal, is there a way for it to add columns automatically when more records are created, or do you have to know how many records when starting?
So it sounds like in the case where we have the first 8 displayed in the first portal and the next 8 displayed in the next portal.
Yes.
You could put a hide option here where you say count, and then we're looking through that relationship to the anchor buoy. We're counting the primary key. Or say if it's greater, or if it's less than 7, then hide. Or less than 8, then hide. So now, when I go, so in record 1, Johnny Appleseed, we see that he has 14 records. We see both columns. We look at Tim. He's only got, he doesn't have any records. So let's add some records for him. And once we hit 8, So I'm going to commit this, and you'll see we still don't have this. Once I hit 8, the second portal shows up, so we can put in number 9. So that's a way that you could control how many are displayed if this is if that's something you want to use. Good question. Any other questions?
Yes, I keep muting myself so you don't hear me like drinking and I keep forgetting to unmute. David Angel, how do you filter a portal using position and pattern count functions?
Position and pattern count functions? So it would depend on the use case of what you're filtering or what you want to filter. I guess if you're trying to do a search, maybe you want, instead of, in this case, if we were doing a real simple filter for the note here. So I guess in using a position and pattern count, maybe you want to do a search where you're searching one of these fields, maybe the note field. You could do a filter and say, I'm going to disable this one so you can see it in the future. And we can say pattern count, and our search string is going to be our global filter. And where we're searching in is we're searching in the note. Let's do that. And what I'm going to do is lower both of these, because pattern count is case sensitive. So let's try that. And so there's nothing in here. So now you'll notice I keep getting this error. I am going to, and it's because I have the commit there. The final thing is go to field. We need to navigate to the global filter. Okay, so note. So now I see everything that has the word note in it. Maybe I want to see March. There's everything with March. If it's empty, you could put in a filter that says if is empty, then we want our global filter. I'm going to say not is empty. So if this isn't empty, we're going to do that filter. Else, we're just going to put the number 1 so that it displays. Something's not right. I don't have my semicolon. Okay. So now when global filter is empty, we see everything. If I type in something containers, then we're getting the containers in there, or we see that filter. So another thing with filtering on a portal like that is that depending on how many related records, that filter can slow things down. So there's different ways you can do a filter. It might be faster to actually bring up a list view and do a search in there with this kind of filtering where you're doing a search. It's probably not the most efficient way to do it in the portal itself, but this is a quick way to show how that would be done. Any other questions?
One last one. Can you show how to do 3 overlaying portals? For example, last week, this week, next week, that appear as a single portal on screen in a way that suggests horizontal scrolling. That's very specific, Foxy Jack.
Horizontal. So 3 portals that show last week, this week, and next week?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
but it appears as a single portal on screen. I don't...
Yeah, so it sounds like you almost want a sub-summary in there. And at this point, it probably makes sense to go to a list view. But you could stack 3 portals, but I'm not sure that would, I mean, one above the other. But then what people get the sense that you should be able to just scroll through them all, and it doesn't end up being very elegant.
So basically, at that point, it sounds like Flossy Jack, you need to look at something not portal related. Um, in that case, I think we're good then. Any other questions, follow-up questions, concerns? I don't see anything. So, hmm?
David Angel said, "How do you do it?" Got me curious. So I guess one way you could do something like that is say, so we'll do something real quick to show that. Is that okay?
Yes, you've got time, so.
Okay. So I'm just going to move these over and let's just do another layout and call this one, first duplicate apex and call this one, what is this? 3 portals.
Yep.
So, okay, so here we've got our, and they're going to stack above each other. We're only going to do 3 rows per, so they show up. 3, 3, and 3. And let me go ahead and just line these up, distribute vertically. And so the middle one would be this week, so filter. So I'm going to say week of year. And now I'm getting the week of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm for that date. And I'm going to filter it. It equals get a week of year, get current date. Okay. So we're just going to copy this filter on all 3 of these and say this one equals week of year minus 1 for the previous week. Oops. Filter, this one equals week of year plus 1 for the next week. Obviously, there's going to be a little issue. You'd have to put something in there to figure it out for December and last week of December and first week of January. So last week, let's copy this down here. Next, this week. And next week. Make these all just line up nicely. So I don't see anything in here, but there should be something. So last week, okay, so we're seeing something here. Let's put something into this week. Something's wrong on this week. Let's look at our filter. So get current date, week of year, get as date maybe. I find it interesting that it's working on one but not the others.
That is kind of odd.
Yeah.
Huh.
And obviously this is last week.
Yes.
We're currently at the 12th.
There's definitely records.
Yep. Well, let me go ahead and just create one without filters so we can see what
might be messing
the
with it.
master data is. And we'll say filters off. Oh, the initial row. Is that it? Yeah, that's the initial. It's the initial row problem. There we go. Thank you. Who said that?
Labo404. Thank you, Labo404.
There we go. Okay, so here we see we've got 3 records last week, 2 for this week, and 2 for next week. That's how you might do something like that. Great questions. I was afraid we weren't going to make it to 2 o'clock.
We are technically overtime now. So.
All right. Any final questions?
I don't see any. Now's your time, people. Well, we've got Calvin here.
All right.
I think we're good.
I'm going to give this file to Margaret, and she can send it to you if you guys feel like having it.
Yes. In that case, thank you very much, Calvin. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank everyone for asking questions. We greatly appreciate them. Ugh, I can enunciate. We're good.
What's happening tomorrow?
Great question. What is happening tomorrow? I make the schedule. I don't even remember it sometimes. Tomorrow and Thursday are Nick days. So, relationships with Nick, and then super optimization. So auto entry versus calculation with Nick, which I believe Nick is intensely opinionated on last I checked. Quick way to set Nick off is to ask about auto entry calculations. It's a fun way. Anyway, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you so much, Calvin. This has been fantastic. And let's see if the button works this time. We're gonna roll dice. It does not. It doesn't work. The button doesn't work, Calvin. Gotta do this manually. We're just gonna ignore the awkward as we wait patiently. Here we go.
Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!